Welcome, everyone, back to a brand new edition of Getting Color. That's right, Getting Color has returned to the BigVitoBrand.com. And I'm, of course, Virtue, and being joined none other than Big Vito. Hey, man, what up?
How's everything going? I hope everybody's doing good out there. And just in honor of the show getting back, I noticed I got the beard coming in. I know it's light. It's just starting in. It's not Virtue's brand of beard, but you know how me, the BIGV from the LOG, we're doing all right.
Dude, you're going to shave it. You're like Vince McMahon. You can't have any hair on your body. He at least has it on his head, but
you want to know why I'm doing this?
Why's that?
The greatest thing you're ever going to hear. You ever watch the Fabulous Ones video?
Yes.
I am going to remake it because I love that video so much. That's why I'm growing the beard. And I'm leaning out, and I'm going to freaking do this video.
Is it a TikTok video?
No, as like a shoot remake of the Fabulous Ones.
All right. Dude, we haven't done Getting Color for a while. You were a guest on the Virtue and Vice show last week, so that was on a couple of channels. And of course, people are like, "When's Big Vito coming back to No DQ?" And I was like, "Well, when's Getting Color coming back?" And here you are. Here I am, finally doing another show, a Getting Color show. It's been a while. Are you ready to talk about some topics in the world of wrestling and anything else? Because I got some for you, Vito.
I got some, and I just want to tell the people out there, we're doing the Getting Color. It wasn't because of anything about me not wanting to do the show or anything like that. It's just life things happen. Virtue knows he's one of. I could say Virtue's a friend of the family. He's a good friend, and I talk to him about stuff probably late at night while everybody's sleeping because he's up like a night owl. Yep. But it was a good idea for tonight to do this, and I think we're going to do this on the regular. So, guys, we got 2 shows coming to you. Virtue's going to keep his show. And, Virtue, what's the name of your new show?
Well, I'm going to change it back to Virtue's Brand of Wrestling. And of course, I want Robbie Vice on it as much as he possibly can. But in the event that he can't be on with me every week, it will be me solo ranting about something of professional wrestling. But exactly. On top of that, we're going to do this too now, Getting Color.
Right. Getting Color is back. So you could rant about Aaron Rip and his hair, him being in love, him being engaged, him having a mother-in-law, and all the other good stuff that comes along with it.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to Aaron Rip, Andre Corbeil, Robbie Vice, everybody that we've done shows with. Now, let's start. Linda McMahon and the government somehow float Florida $18.5 million. Pandemic money, I don't even know what it's for. Not too long after that, they're considered essential business. A wrestling show is considered essential business. Now, come on, Vito. What the hell's going on here?
Well, a lot of politics, and I believe it was they donated $18 million, or they donated $20 million. Then, in turn, the government and Linda McMahon donated $18.5 million, and it became essential business. Heavy politics, heavy Congress, heavy president, just heavy, and wrestling has no business being on right now on a one-on-one basis. Guys, I gotta set the record straight here, okay? When I started wrestling, I was in the WWF in 1991. I wrestled for that company until I went to ECW in 98. I went from ECW to WCW to XWF to back over to Japan to TNA, back to the WWE, okay? This isn't I hate the WWE or I hate anything. There are certain things that are going on, but I gotta call it like I see it. And please take my verbiage and what I say as an analyst and journalist, because people get mixed up. I mean, Russo is more passionate about certain things. Virtue is passionate about certain things. I like to see it as I call it. And being that I live in Florida, we're on lockdown. There are people who work in essential jobs like myself. And you know what? I'm not getting paid any extra, just so you know, right? and I'm out there putting my life at risk, putting my wife in danger. God forbid I come home with something. And the wrestlers are putting their lives at risk, and they're getting close to each other to bring their God forbid you bleed on each other. God forbid something happens. God forbid anything.
They're traveling, Vito. They're traveling.
Yeah, they're traveling. And what's the thing right now? Everybody stay at home.
Yeah.
But Vince McMahon thinks it's essential to make his business a priority over everything, over baseball, basketball, football, soccer, tennis, the movies, everything. The UFC. And they even went the extra yard to go build their own fight island so nobody could tell them what they could do.
Now, when I hear the word essential, I think food, groceries, things that you need to stay alive. Why? How is wrestling something you need to stay alive? Like you said, it's politics. I just can't believe this. I mean, is it supposed to get morale up? That's bullshit if that's their narrative. You know, oh, this is the starting process of getting sports, and WWE is going to lead the way. That's the narrative they're going to spin, you know.
Well, here's a twist. You know that they opened up Jacksonville beaches this past weekend, right?
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay, you saw that. Do you know how the weekend ain't over? You know how many cases of coronavirus they have? 1,300.
Is that just Jacksonville only? Oh, man.
13. So what does that tell you? We're not ready to be let out. We're not ready to go in the water. We're not ready to be in a population.
But WWE is essential, Vito. People need it, and money talks.
You know, everybody's talked about. I think we hit on this a little bit last week. You know, when it comes to essential and what's needed, you know, there are insurances taken out for things like this. WrestleMania didn't have to go on. There was no money lost. You know, I mean, that's why you take out insurance policies for things like this. And for them to do what they did this past Monday. Now, we're going to roll into something else. Okay, they had a bunch of people come in, and they had them work. And everybody's a hard worker. Everybody who goes in, they did their best. The thing that sucked was that these people have lives. These people have families. These people have small children. There are some that wives are pregnant. And they brought these people in. The next day, fired.
Yep. Nuts. And here we are. Next topic, the WWE releases. So first of all, Vince had to close the XFL down, right?
Right.
He lost money there. Now, what's he trying to do? And here's the best part. Vince McMahon, WWE's not funding the XFL this time. Yet on some reports, on some books, it shows WWE's name and some funding for the XFL. I don't know the logistics of it, but now Vince is cutting all these people to get the profits up, to make the shareholders happy, and ultimately to put more money in his bank account. Now, let's talk about some of these releases. Some of them got furloughed. I don't know all of them. A lot of the road agents for house shows like Lance Storm, Fit Finley, guys like that, they sent home. Furlough. I don't know if they're considered, I think those are considered full-time employees with benefits, unlike the wrestlers. But then the wrestlers just flat out got released. So I got two problems with this. The wrestlers that were released that Vince McMahon just dropped the ball on, I believe Rusev could have made him lots of money. And he failed Rusev twice. Monster heel early in his career. All he had to do was be booked to go over John Cena at that WrestleMania. And then when Rusev Day hit, you could have had a nice babyface run, sold a lot of merch, made the fans happy, put the strap on them. That's what money's about. I'm not saying it was Hulkamania, Vito. And then they just released the poor guy after that angle they put him through with Lashley and Lana. And there's been other releases. Zack Ryder.
But hold on. Before you get to the other ones, what did Rusev want? What did Rusev ask for?
Well, did he ask? Did he ask for? I don't know if he asked for his release though.
He was bitching and moaning a while ago when everybody was wanting to get out of their contract when he wasn't doing anything, and he wanted his relief. He was one of the guys who wanted his release, so they held on. You got what you wanted. Never ask for your release when you have a full-time job, because it'll always come back to bite you.
Now, do you think he'll land when business picks up, this pandemic is over, will he land in AEW? Especially, I think he had a lot of potential. For whatever reason, it just didn't work out in WWE.
Want to know where I think he's going?
Where's that?
I think he could be a great wrestler in Japan.
So you think he's going to go there? And I can see that, because Japan likes to bring in those stars that aren't the Japanese people to fight them, because it's almost like the Invader. And Rusev plays that Invader role pretty well.
He's a big, agile guy who could wrestle and work. He'd be great over there in Japan. He could make maybe $5,000 to $7,000 a week. That's a lot of cash.
And he'll be okay. I mean, he'll be okay. But what do you think of a Zack Ryder's been there a while? He got over with the fans over on his own. Vince McMahon hates that. Buried him. Finally released him. Mike Chioda, a referee for the longest time, and then a bunch of other wrestlers, got released. Some that Eric Young, Sarah Logan, there's probably a good list of 20 plus wrestlers. Did anybody else stick out to you as just lost opportunity? Do you think Vince could have did this a little differently? Now, play devil's advocate here, Vito. During this time, WWE's not bringing in the money they normally would, right? Any business has to make cuts to survive. So I'm going to give them a little benefit of the doubt, but I still think there are really some people they shouldn't have. Any take on any certain releases, and I'm shocked they'll let somebody like Mike Chioda go after all these years. How much money is that really saving them? You know what I mean? He wasn't making the big bucks like the workers.
Yeah, but he's been there for so long. He probably was the highest paid referee.
So you think? But I mean, so you think that's a justifiable release for them? Somebody like Mike Chioda?
Highest paid, for last one hired.
Regardless if you bust your ass and you're good at what you do?
Highest paid. They got rid of office people too. You don't know their salaries, but they got rid of a lot of office people, right?
And I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, because companies have to do this when they're not making the money. The pandemic's hurting them, right? Everything's shut down, but they are still running their live shows, so they're still getting their contract from Fox and USA. So there is some money still coming in. I think most of this is tied to Vince McMahon's XFL going under, which was affected because of the pandemic. But if Vince never got into doing these things outside of WWE, he wouldn't be wasting assets, right? He goes into these ventures trying to think he's good at the wrestling bubble because he's done it. He made WWE global, Vito, but he's failed pretty much everywhere else outside of wrestling. What's your take on that part of the business? Vince McMahon trying to do too much outside of wrestling, and it ultimately costs him money, and then he tries to recoup it by releasing people.
His net worth was $2.9 billion. In a week, he went down to $1.9 billion. He lost $1 billion. Had to recoup somehow, okay? So what did he do? He cut the fat off, what was left off the roster. Now, you talk about who sticks out or what. Rusev is probably the biggest name on the list. Heath Slater, fringe guy, been there, loyal employee, did everything they asked, okay? The Kanellis couple really didn't do anything except, she's out, she's pregnant. Crappy time to lose your job for both of you,
Kurt Angle, but he was just an agent.
Kurt Angle was an agent. He'll probably be brought back for special appearances down the road, right? But then you talk about all the guys who they didn't do anything with or they did stuff with who were just hanging on. Primo and Epico haven't been on in a year or more. They were just getting a paycheck, right? Zack Ryder and the other kid,
It's Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins.
They weren't doing anything, and Zack Ryder is successful outside of WWE, so it's not going to hurt him as much. Now he's got to make it on his own. But all the rest of the releases, they chopped off a good portion of people who they weren't using or weren't in the mix. So, okay, I can see them being cut. If this pandemic, didn't happen, would they still have their jobs? Absolutely. Will we be talking about this? No. But since it's happened, and then you talk about the NXT roster, I think they're cutting about 10 people off there, guys who just were hanging on or didn't have any potential. Referees they cut announcers who I didn't even know existed. So, I mean, they cut the fat off it, and then they cut office people, right?
Yep.
Now you didn't hear of anybody taking a pay cut. They just released people. So did Triple H, Stephanie, Vince, Shane, Triple H, did they take pay cuts to help, reduce the blow to this? Absolutely not.
Yeah, and you see fans. What annoys me about the fans here, they want some of these workers to get released, right? Because they want them to go to greener pastures, right? Or they want them to go, bigger fish in a smaller pond. And then when something like this happens and they get released, then the fans are like, how dare you, WWE? The Revival just got released before these cuts. They wanted to be released. So fans get happy for stuff like that because, they'll end up going to AEW or wherever. But then when WWE does something corporate like this, it's, Vince McMahon, you're a bad man, you're a bad man. So I'm looking at it from both sides of the coin. I do get annoyed by the fans who are Benedict Arnolds. You know what I mean? They say, hey, I want these wrestlers to leave WWE because they can do so much better here. Well, then when they do get cut, released, whatever, now it's not cool because it's during a pandemic. So nobody can ever be happy, Vito. Vito, how do you make wrestling fans happy? What was your trick back in the day? So you could give them some content and they weren't going to bitch about it. Because today, I don't know what they don't bitch about.
Well, they bitched about. I mean, all right. Let's go back. When WCW when was bought out by WWE, they said, okay, Big Vito and Johnny the Bull are coming over. No, Vito was left off. They brought it over. They made the FBI. It wasn't the full FBI unless Big Vito was part of the FBI. Never happened, right? A lot of politics and a lot of nonsense backstage had a lot to do with it. So, could they make them happy by bringing in Big Vito when the FBI was full? Of course. They would bring me with Nunzio, made them happy. What was it with Johnny the Bull and Chuck Palumbo? No, so they weren't happy. Then they put me in the dress, right? So the fans were unhappy. And then when I went on an undefeated streak, they were happy. Fans are fickle. You're going to make this, it's going to be good and it's going to be bad. When you go to a territory, you could be the ruthless of a heel. And you could say, oh my God, I hate him. But as soon as you turn babyface, they love you. That's what's called being a fan. You're allowed to cheer, you're allowed to boo, you're allowed to yell, you're allowed to scream. Fans are never satisfied. And it doesn't matter if you jump off the Empire State Building, you jump off a scaffold, you do a triple DDT through 9 tables, they're always going to want more. So there's no satisfying, and fans are fans, and they're given the opportunity to cheer, to boo, to yell, to scream. That is the job of the fan.
Now, good point. Now, with this essential business in Florida that WWE now has, this should give AEW that same thing. I'm not saying it's right, but they should be able to go now and do their tapings in Jacksonville, right, without any repercussions.
You would think so, but you never know how it's going to float and who's behind. I'm sure Tony Khan could donate $18 million so he could, do his thing, but they're not going to allow him the same gratis to partake in that because there can only be one essential wrestling company, and that's the WWE.
Well, it's going to be interesting. Now, I know that they were finding AEW taped a whole bunch of stuff ahead of time, so they're probably not going to do the live. And that's one thing. Supposedly, WWE has to do so many live shows or they could be in violation of their contracts with USA and Fox. So I don't know how that works with AEW and TNT, but that's why the strings were pulled. That's why WWE is now essential and going to be doing live shows on Mondays and Fridays. I don't know, man. I just think this whole pandemic thing is weird.
Well, what people don't realize, they just signed a deal with India for $52 million a year. That could have went to help support some wrestlers. That could have kept people on the payroll, right? So if they're losing $4 million a month, 4 goes into 52. 4 goes into 52, 5, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12 times. So that would have been 12 weeks they could have held on and helped out the wrestlers until they figured something out. But they kept their 52 million, they cut their losses, and they moved on. It happens in business. So, the good thing about WWE, they look out for themselves. They're a business. They have to take care of things. They have stockholders. The bad thing is the people on the other end who are the casualties, who get cut, lose their jobs. The only positive thing out of the whole thing, guys, they get 90 days of pay. So they get 3 months to figure out their lives. So that if you're living in Orlando and you got to go back home, you go back home. And what people don't realize is that you can file for unemployment and get unemployment while you're doing this.
Yep.
So,
dude, and then it's crazy, man. We want our sports, Vito. How you doing without live sports right now? Like, we get why it's not happening, but we'd be getting NBA playoff time right now. Baseball would have started, and we just have none of it. It's just weird. It's a weird world. This virus it needs to go away.
You want to know something? I actually have been watching SportsCenter, and I've been keeping up with what's happening in sports. You have the NBA season. They're trying to start the Major League Baseball season. The NFL draft is happening. A lot of things are going on. So, they're trying to do business as usual without playing games. They're looking to, close seasons and open seasons and keep things going. So you have to take it as it comes. You can watch SportsCenter. They do have some good content on. They're doing a good job of keeping you, informed of what's happening. But as far as not having any sports, TikTok is pretty big right now.
Yeah. You're all over that, aren't you? Yeah. I don't know. It's NBA playoff time, and the baseball, like I do fantasy baseball. We didn't even do any drafts yet because we don't know when anything's going to happen. And it's a weird time, worrying about your safety. My parents are older, right? I'm worrying about them. I just hope all this stuff blows over. Hopefully they get a vaccine. Hopefully warmer weather kicks the virus's ass. Speaking of like the bad stuff of the world, Howard Finkel passed away. And I kind of was one of the ones, some people knew we didn't know what his illnesses were, but he knew he didn't have the greatest health the last several years. Did you I think you got to work with Howard Finkel, correct? You want to share your memories of Howard Finkel if you have any? I'm just a fan, but he was the voice of my childhood. You know what I mean? So what's your take? It sucks. I hate this kind of news.
Let's see. I met Howard Finkel in 1991 when I started to go to WWF, and me and Howard became friends. And he was instrumental in trying to get me a job, trying to help me get a full-time job at WWF. So every time there was a TV taping, he would call, "Hey Vito, how you doing? We have a TV taping in the Manhattan Center, or at in Poughkeepsie, or Hershey Park, or Maine, or Boston, or any, we'd like to know if you'd like to come." I always say yes, Howard. Great man, very nice. At that time I was married, and anytime I brought family, they always made sure they sat front row. Howard always took care of me, always took my calls in the office. And here's a little tidbit, a little wrestling history. In 1998, when I went to ECW, and I started to get some play in ECW, and I started to make my name that I was there and I was having good matches. I don't know if anybody remembers that they had the big tryout and they were calling the talent. They would think there was 5 guys that were supposed to go down. Howard Finkel calls me up. I think Steve Corino was on the list too. So I'm in ECW. I'm finally getting play, and calls me up. "Hey Vito, how you doing?" "Hey Howard, what's going on? Good to hear from you. Hey, listen, we'd like to bring you down. We might have something for you." And I'm like, I says, "I'm wrestling for ECW, right?" He goes, "Yeah, but we'd like to bring you down, and we'd like to go, bring you in, and we think we might have something for you." So I call up Taz, and I said, "Taz," I says, "I got a phone call." He goes, "From who?" I said, "The WWE." He said, "What did they want?" I said, "They wanted me to come in, and they wanted to give me a job." He says, "Well, Vito," he says, I know you wanted to go there for all these years and they never gave you no play. He said, but you have a spot here in ECW and we took a chance on you doing good. So why would you go somewhere? You know what they want to do. So I says, I know. And Bubba gave me a call. He says, Vito, he said the same exact thing. He says, you're over here at ECW now. He says, you're making a name for yourself. You're going to have a spot. They only want to take you because they don't want you to be blow up over here. So when I called up Howard Finkel, you know, I told him, I said, listen, Howard, I thought about it, but I'm going to decline the offer. And it was the hardest thing I had to say. I said, for all the years I tried to get in the WWE and the WWF, I said, you guys paid me no mind. I said, but when I finally made it in the competition, the ECW, I said, you guys gave me a call. I said, I'm going to have to decline. He says, I totally understand, Vito. He says, listen, you have a good day and, you know, good luck and you know, we're good. Doesn't mean that we didn't still talk and, you know, converse, but hardest phone call I had to say was turning down Howard Finkel, a guy who took care of me all those years, like Sergeant Slaughter back then. And, you know, life goes full circle. And when I finally got signed for WWE and he was at TV with Sarge, they were smiling at me and they said, you finally made it, huh? I said, yeah, it took a long time, but I'm here.
Let's be clear, Vito. You were in WWE's like you were on Raw. I mean, you were Skull Von Crush. You want to explain before you blew up in ECW as a guy that went over all the time? You want to explain to people that how your role in WWE prior to '98, so some people might not get it. They might not understand. Like I thought he was Skull Von Crush over there.
I was Skull Von Crush. They listed me as Von Crush or Vito Cruz. They actually let me do my gimmick. I'm probably one of the only enhancement talents who a lot of people thought I was a regular on TV because I did all the TVs. And for all the years I wrestled there, you know, I made a name for myself and I had a cult following of Skull Von Crush. He's on the Indies. He's in Puerto Rico. He's in Japan. He's going to Malaysia. He's in Memphis. You know, Skull Von Crush was a very household name. So then when I went to ECW, they said, Vito, why are you still doing the German thing? He said, why don't you be Vito the Skull LaGrasso from Staten Island, New York, and come out as you? And I said, okay, let's do it. So, and that's how it happened. That's how I got to be Big Vito.
So you were getting paid per appearance in WWE's Skull, right, Von Crush? Yeah, and then
and I was getting part of house show money too. So if I sucked, or as people would say, oh, he's just a jobber. No, I was an enhancement talent who got taken care of, and I was paid off of house shows, and I got taken care of. And they, you know, the people there at the time, Howard Finkel, the Macho Man, Bobby Heenan, Kurt Hennig, Elizabeth, Sherry, all the regulars always came out to my family and always made us feel at home. Hulk Hogan, you're talking about everybody there. And I was a regular guy on the roster who came to all the stuff. And what people don't know is when I started to do all the stuff and I started to make a name for myself, and they told me, Vito, you go into these territories and you're looked at as a jobber. He says, you have to stop doing the WWE TVs. And I was like, well, he says, do you want to become Barry Horowitz? Do you want to be Barry O? Do you want to be those guys who are not going to have a future? And back then, once you got labeled as a jobber, it was kind of hard to break the realm.
Yeah.
So come around 1993, 94, I stopped going to TVs. And then I went to Memphis, I went to San Domingo, I went to Puerto Rico, I went to Japan. But I had TV exposure, so people knew who I was. So it was kind of the best of both worlds, but I didn't have a full-time job. And, you know, not going back to TVs kind of killed me a little bit because I like being there. You know, the Bret Harts of the world, the Big Boss Men, the British Bulldogs, you know, the Rockers, Legion of Doom, all these guys took an interest in making sure I had offense. I was welcome in the dressing room, and I made these guys look good, and I took good bumps for them. I was a student of the game, and I soaked it in. And these guys took care of me. And the good thing is that I learned and I developed, and I made it from jobber status or enhancement status to superstar status. And I went to every company and got a push in every company and did the whole full thing. And people don't realize that.
Well, they better realize it, Vito, because it's the truth. Now, I want to bring up Roman Reigns. They're not mentioning him on TV like he doesn't exist right now. I don't know if you've seen these rumors, if they're even true. We know that he decided not to do WrestleMania tapings, right? Because he didn't want to get sick or get a chance of catching anything. We do know that there's been a confirmed person in WWE that's a TV personality, it seems like, that's got this that had coronavirus. I'm thinking it's Corey Graves. I don't blame Roman for doing this one bit, but we talked about this on my show last week. What is he going to get the full-on buried treatment? This guy has done well for Vince McMahon. I've been to a couple of WrestleManias, Vito. He had the longest line in Access. So he has a fight. He may not be super popular like Hulkamania because the way WWE's booked him, but he does. He's a Samoan. He's got the long, wet black hair, the muscles, the tattoo. The girls like him. He makes Vince McMahon money. I've seen it. Okay? What is going to happen when Roman wants to finally come back and work? I'm interested from somebody's opinion that's been there, that's worked for Vince McMahon. And like I said, I know this is rehashed from last week, but they are told not to even say Roman's name on TV right now. We didn't know that a week ago. What do you think now?
I said it last week. He is going to get buried worse than Jinder Mahal ever. You thought Jinder Mahal was going to be a job boy to champion and go back to job boy? Roman Reigns is going to go back to like sub-novice, and he's going to be punished because he didn't follow the train. He didn't get on the train. He didn't listen to what Vince McMahon wanted to do. He didn't follow the curriculum. He stood up for himself. And when you stand up for yourself in the WWE, they don't like it, and you are going to feel the wrath. It's just like
Daniel Bryan. Well, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm thinking of Daniel Bryan. We talked about this before. It was riding high as a heel vegan champion of the earth, heading into WrestleMania. Now, yes, he had to pay off the hotness of Kofi Mania, but really, when Daniel Bryan refused to go to Saudi Arabia, he's a mid-carder, and he lost to Sami Zayn recently. So is Roman going to be in that Daniel Bryan bubble now?
You are absolutely 100% correct, and worse. You're lucky he doesn't. If he goes down to Heath Slater, this is what you're talking about. And watch, they'll make him change his gimmick too to get him out of Roman Reigns Samoan and the Shield. They'll make him come out in tights.
I think he'll stay home. I think he's done this long enough and has enough bank. I'm not putting it past WWE to try to screw him over because we know their history. I think Roman might stand up for himself, though. This is a whole story. Like, I want to see how this develops. As this pandemic clears up and life starts to get back to normal, I might be more interested on the return of Roman Reigns than anything else to see how the machine treats him. We might have to revisit this down the road because we know how ruthless Vince McMahon can be to people that get sick. Remember, there is no sick, pal. But I don't know. Some reports say they've been pretty forgiving about him too, and they just want to keep him off TV because since he's not there, they don't want to make people think that he's getting promoted. But I don't know. There's an underlying suspicion that you have things aren't going to look pretty good for him when he does come back, and we're just going to have to wait it out now.
You know, like this Suplex City, there's going to be Job City.
That I could see. I think he'll still get like upper mid-card matches, maybe even some main events, but he might not be going over that often. But we will have to see. Now, what else do we got, Vito, here? I mean, it just sucks. We can't go to the movie theaters. We can't go to sports events. I'm not so upset about not going to wrestling. We can't go to the Olive Garden. What's really, and I know safety first, but what's really pissing you off most about this pandemic? Do you think there could be something, or is it being done right? What do you think?
I think they opened up Jacksonville beaches way too soon. I don't think that there's a cure right now.
What was the reasoning for that, for Jacksonville beaches?
Who knows? Who knows? All I could tell you is there are people still in quarantine, like my wife, who don't want to go out, who don't want to go nowhere near nobody. And, one other thing that kind of irritates me a little bit, And this is regular life here, people. You get people who got laid off a job, which sucks.
Yeah.
It does. You got 70,000 at Disney who got furloughed. You have everybody lost. A lot of people lost their jobs, right? But there was a silver lining in this because not only do you get unemployment, you get $700 extra a week in your paycheck. Now, this is supposed to handle for 4 weeks, supposed to handle for 4 months. You're still getting extra money to stay home. The people who are still working and are working in hospitals, working in the essential environment, are not getting any bonuses and putting themselves at risk. Where is the benefit to this for the essential workers? And what is that? That's the first thing, right? The thing that I'm upset about is that I was playing ball 5 times a week. I was enjoying life. You know, I came up with my new workout regimen in the garage. You know what I mean? I've been walking, I've been doing stuff. Right now, I would be so brown and tan, it would be ridiculous. But I've been having no pool. My wife is suffering because she can't do her rehabilitation. And
That's
with
right.
aquatherapy.
But yet
So-
WWE's open is essential, but she can't go to her aquatherapy. That's the things that piss me off.
So you're talking about being cut off, but how could wrestling be essential and not have essential things open for people who need rehabilitation and need these things as to survive? You know, she's having a rough time of it, and like, you know, a couple times. I mean, and I'm sure this goes on in other households, but you know, we're looking at maybe, you know, going to the hospital. But if I take her to the hospital, she's got to stay in the hospital because then she's going to be exposed to the virus. So she's got to stay in there. And then if she comes back out, she has to quarantine for another 14 days. And then who knows if she brings home anything, what happens to me?
Yep.
So
Well, we got to get a beat on this thing.
it's a strange situation. Now your parents are older, and this is
And
real
health
life.
issues. Yeah, past year.
Health issues. They're susceptible. They're not as strong. Their immune systems are a little down. What happens to his parents? How do they cope with this?
Yeah, and that's why I just hope maybe the the warmer weather kicks this virus's butt. They finally figure out some treatment for it. Who knows? All those scientists and doctors are out there doing this. But while this is happening, WWE can put their product on TV because it'll make everybody feel better.
Doesn't make nobody feel better. Doesn't make nobody feel better. And you're giving a half a product. And if it's essential and you're worried about what it does for the fans, there's no fans allowed in the building. So who are you doing it for? Yourself.
Hey, at least Rob Gronkowski is the 24/7 champion, unless he's lost it since the WrestleMania taping. I don't even know.
That was disgusting. That was so
You know
hard.
what? That's why I'm glad because I want, you know how we always cover something sports here? So since I brought up Rob Gronkowski, Tom Brady, what do you think? Cause we don't need to have the season happening right now to discuss this. Tom Brady leaves New England, goes to Tampa. He's finally going to have some talented receivers, not going to have Bill Belichick. Who really, when it's all said and done, do they need each other? Does Belichick and Brady's legacy, is it always going to be married together? Or these few years, because Brady's getting older, I mean, shoot, he's 43. Who's going to have the success here? Will it be Belichick's Patriots? Will it be Brady on the Bucks? Or will it be neither because they need to be married together? I'm interested on your point of view on these two teams because we are finally going to get an answer. Who was better for the New England Patriots? What do you think?
All right. Well,
because they're such a dynasty.
Just so you guys know, did you guys realize that the new Tampa Bay Bucks were shopping their tight end, looking to trade him? What position does Gronkowski play?
Tight end.
So I was like, all right, there's a little egg or a little something out there. Edelman, he's on the trading block, right? Now, if Edelman's on the trading block, where might he wind up? Tampa.
Yeah.
Okay? So you have to be a good coach to coach like Phil Jackson with the Chicago Bulls and the Los Angeles Lakers, because you got to know what you're doing. You also have to have the players. Now, when you look at it, you have to have talent. Tom Brady, he had a crap season last year, but he didn't have all the right tools around him. Tampa Bay's got all the right tools. So
Yep.
I think he'll bring that success and that edge to Tampa Bay to get them in the playoffs. Where they'll go, I don't know, but they'll make the playoffs. And that's the big thing, right? Tampa Bay misses by a couple games every year. I think he brings 3 wins to that team.
And I think what happens is you could have a playoff team in Tampa Bay, and New England can even find a way to get back to the playoffs. I think for the rest of Brady's career that neither New England or Tampa Bay will win a Super Bowl. I think that there's just too many other talented teams in the NFL, younger teams. But again, never say never with Tom Brady.
But
I think if I had to pick between the two teams, I would pick Brady and the Bucs winning a Super Bowl before Patriots. Even though I know Patriots were all about the team, I think the reason they had that success for the last 20 years was because of Tom Brady. Belichick can call the plays on the sidelines, but Brady's got to execute them on the field. So if I had to pick between the two, I think the Buccaneers have the better chance to win a Super Bowl than the Patriots while Brady's still playing. That's my take.
But what everybody forgets is when you go to play for Bill Belichick, he makes you into a player. I could see Brian Hoyer coming in as quarterback. Now everybody might say he's a shit, but he is the Ryan Fitzpatrick of our generation. Put him in a good situation like they did with the Jets. He's gonna have a great career. Brian Hoyer,
what Tannehill did last year on the Titans, like something like that out of nowhere, career resurrection.
I think that the kid who was the backup quarterback for the Eagles. What's his name? Ryan. It wasn't Wentz. It was the other guy.
It was Wentz, but then Foles. But Foles went to Jacksonville, and now he's on some other team. I don't know where Foles is at, but is that who you're thinking of?
Right. Now, Nick Foles was flourished in Philadelphia, right? He went someplace else, and he didn't have a good place, and then he didn't have a good place again. Who knows with him, right? You got Brian Hoyer. He's the good quarterback. He just wasn't put in the right situation. I think if he has the right mind behind him, I think he'll be better and adequate. He'll get the Patriots in the playoffs.
And we'll see. I don't know what free agents are left out there either, but you never know with Belichick. But it'll be interesting. And you know what? Maybe by the football season, everything will be back to normal, Vito, and we can watch some football. But we got to take it day at a time right now. It's all we can do. Is there anything I didn't bring up, sports, wrestling, entertainment, that you wanted to discuss? Because I feel pretty content for this return episode of Getting Color, but I'd be more than willing to continue it for a little bit longer if you got something.
Now, guys, I just want to say this is a great opening show. I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be back with my partner in crime, Virtue. I hope you guys are going to like the shows. I know you do like the shows, and I know people have been asking me to do wrestling shows, so I'm back doing this. We're still trying to work out some logistics to do Aaron Riff show on the No DQ. So, as soon as Aaron comes up with some big bucks, we'll see what we could do. All we're asking for is, what are we asking for, Virtue? Just to be at the reunion.
Olive Garden gift card?
Olive Garden gift cards. And we don't want your beach balls. We don't want your hats. We don't want your merch. We don't want naked pictures of your mother-in-law. We just want Olive Garden gift cards. Come on, Aaron.
Well, it's all a work in progress. So Aaron knows you want to come back, and the review's still going strong. Now it's just a matter of getting the logistics together. So,
exactly.
But what a great discussion, Vito. I always enjoy doing this. Now, when we're done recording this, I get to go do my little rant for Virtue's brand of wrestling. But this is thebigvitobrand.com, people. And I'm going to actually let Vito close this show. So you can follow me on Twitter at NoDQ_Virtue. You can go to my Facebook, nodq.com/virtue. I love talking wrestling if I have to. Sports, movies, video games, all that good stuff. But also trolling. I am the troll slayer. Like, trolling is good if you do it in all good fun, but if you get a little too nasty, Vito, we can slay some trolls, can't we?
Yeah, we can. We've been known to, slice and dice some people, make them cry. They even send us Olive Garden gift cards. So what the hell? All right, guys, listen.
I'm going to let you close this edition of Getting Color. So take it away, man.
All right, guys. I'd just like to say it is good to be back. I'm very happy to be doing the shows. I did miss doing the shows and doing wrestling shows. I might not watch and keep up like some people who are but I do keep up enough to have knowledge and talk about things. Um, I think this is going to be good. A lot of people are going to like this. Thank you to all the loyal fans for being, accepting Virtue on the Big Vito brand and liking our material. Noelle is working the controls in the back. She's getting ready to slice and dice this bad boy. And follow us on the BigVitoBrand.com. Follow us on Twitch, on Twitter, on the Facebook. Hit the Big Vito Brand button, and we got show 1 in the books, and let's keep it going.
We will, everybody. And thank you, Big Vito. This is fun. I can't wait to do the next recording. Please make sure you go to thebigvitobrand.com, and we will see you next time.